Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Star Christian LeBlanc talks about a time he was screened for cancer because of an incident that happened on filming. Actor Christian LeBlanc, who plays Michael Baldwin on The Young and the Restless, battled cancer in real life, as fans are aware. The three-time Daytime Emmy winner recently talked about how his YNR family helped him recognize that he needed medical assistance. Wedding Ring Blues, Young and the Restless. LeBlanc and his television spouse, Tracy Bregman, made an appearance on Greg and Rebecca's online podcast, Soapy. LeBlanc talked about how his YNR family supported him throughout his health struggle. He clarified that while he was portraying Michael, he became aware that something was wrong. The presenters reassured their friend that he was genuinely liked, but LeBlanc said, "After years and years together, people show up and I'm always surprised because it's work, not family." He said to his TV half-brother, "We love you." I really credit them for that. Given that Michael had suffered from prostate cancer on the program, LeBlanc saw his cancer diagnosis as an example of life mimicking art. When Michael found out he was sick, LeBlanc describes it as a long, slow pull. It was an actor's dream. Using this ring. On The Young and the Restless, Christian LeBlanc portrays Michael. Photo courtesy of CBS. Before being officially diagnosed, LeBlanc started experiencing nosebleeds, which he initially thought were caused by taking over-the-counter blood thinners. He remembers they got worse and worse and worse. The actor had been packing cotton into his nose to stop the bleeding while filming a scene at the Genoa City Athletic Club. In order to avoid having to look up to view her, he had to ask his scene partner to stay out of his way. Was excellent and very patient, yet something was off. LeBlanc remembers, "I was simply playing it off, so they were far more concerned about me than I was." You're not thinking like that. LeBlanc didn't know something more serious might be happening until he had to put on Michael's wedding band for a scene he had to film. He claims, "I put my hand down and it fell off my hand." The Young and the Restless star also complimented viewers for spotting something strange, saying, "That was the first sign of something odd." Read more about it here. LeBlanc and Bregman's interview with Soapy can be found here. Recall the conflict between Michael and Christine, the attorneys on The Young and the Restless. Laura Lee Bell is hinting that there may be some nostalgia with Cricket, Danny, Michael, and Lauren in Friday's Young and the Restless episode. These four have a long history, some of which YNR will now discuss. Legal Eagles for The Young and the Restless. Bell wrote on Instagram, "Don't miss tomorrow for some sweet, serious, and enjoyable interactions with the four of us." Veteran YNR viewers remember that Chris started seeing Michael after he and Paul began to have issues, and before she got back together with Danny. Chris was a new lawyer when the two lawyers first met, and she admired Michael's skill as an attorney. They worked on a case together, and Chris's respect for Michael only deepened. At the time, Michael was very different. He was obsessed with winning cases, thought he was powerful, and felt entitled to use coercion to force women into uncomfortable situations. YNR handled sexual harassment in the workplace years before the #MeToo movement gained prominence. Christine wore a wire and got Michael on camera to admit to forcing her into an uncomfortable situation. Michael was censured and then went too far. "My friend, my adversary." On The Young and the Restless, Chris and Michael have alternated between being allies and enemies. Paul saved Chris's life by shooting Michael to stop him from having sex with Cricket against her will after he dug a hole from the apartment next door to Cricket's apartment with Danny and duct-taped Nina. After serving roughly 4 years in prison and appearing off-camera on The Young and the Restless, Michael was released on parole after putting in a lot of effort to win back his legal license and win back Chris's friendship. He gave Danny a kidney to win her back, and although Chris was wary, she finally realized that Michael had changed. However, he didn't really change. While Chris was working in Hong Kong, Michael had plotted to woo Paul, and when Chris discovered how deceitful Michael had been, she called off their engagement. They were able to patch things up as friends years later. In terms of romance, Chris wedded Paul before they were divorced, and now he's going to remarry Danny, while Michael is still happy with Lauren, as long as he doesn't get sucked back into Victor Newman's web. Christian LeBlanc's life is like art, how his on-set experience on The Young and the Restless resulted in a cancer diagnosis. When the stories we tell on screen and behind the scenes are so similar, there are times in life when fiction and reality seem to blend together. For veteran actor Christian LeBlanc, who has been adored for his decades-long portrayal of Michael Baldwin on The Young and the Restless, this uncanny overlap became terrifyingly real. LeBlanc described how an apparently routine day on set, a nosebleed, a loose wedding ring, a few patient coworkers, finally led to a revelation that would change his life, a cancer diagnosis, in an intimate and illuminating interview on the podcast Soapy, which is hosted by fellow soap stars Greg and Rebecca. In LeBlanc's case, it was a moment of art truly imitating life, one that might have saved him. His story is not just about fear or illness. It's about family, both on and off screen, and how the people we work with, the characters we inhabit, and the art we create can reflect our deepest truths. A career based on intricacy, Michael Baldwin's development. Early in the 1990s, Christian LeBlanc was cast as Michael Baldwin, a brazen, cunning lawyer whose complex moral code and dark impulses made him one of Genoa City's most compelling characters. At first, Michael was anything but a hero. He was ambitious to the point of being willing to intimidate, manipulate, and even hurt people in order to gain power. One of his first and most contentious plots involved Christine "Cricket" Blair, a bright-eyed, idealistic young lawyer who was determined to change a corrupt world. Christine admired Michael's skill and confidence until she discovered the man she looked up to was also profoundly broken. The Young and the Restless took on the problem of sexual harassment in the workplace head-on long before the #MeToo movement did. Christine secretly recorded Michael pressuring her into awkward situations, which exposed his misconduct and ultimately led to his downfall. Michael was censured, imprisoned, and written off the canvas for several years. This early cancel culture reckoning forced the character and the audience to face the harm caused by unchecked power. Years later, when LeBlanc returned to the show, Michael Baldwin was a different man, or at least attempting to be. His incarceration had compelled him to reflect, be humble, and be redeemed. He gradually and painfully rebuilt his life, his reputation, and his relationships, a rebirth that reflected the actor's own changing perception of himself and his craft. LeBlanc once told an interviewer, "I always said Michael's greatest journey wasn't from villain to hero, but from control to compassion, from someone who believed power came from manipulation to someone who found strength in vulnerability." Art imitates life, the moment that revolutionized everything. Decades later, LeBlanc would have to deal with yet another plotline pertaining to Michael's health, the sensitive and nuanced prostate cancer arc, which was a potent tale of mortality, masculinity, and dread that LeBlanc threw himself wholeheartedly into. On SOAPY, LeBlanc said they did this long, slow pull-out with the camera in the scene where Michael finds out he's ill. It was one of those actors' dreams, pure, raw emotion. Nobody could have foreseen how close that scene would come to him. Shortly after filming it, LeBlanc started to notice something odd. He was getting nosebleeds a lot, which were minor at first but became more frequent over time. Like many others, he dismissed it, assuming it was due to stress, exhaustion, or over-the-counter blood thinners. After all, soap opera schedules are notoriously demanding. However, the hemorrhage worsened. "I remember asking Silver to keep her distance," LeBlanc recalled, "because if I looked up too fast or turned too much, the blood would start again." LeBlanc had to push cotton into his nostrils to get through the day during a shoot at the Genoa City Athletic Club. He was playing through agony and discomfort, still attempting to hit his marks, deliver his lines, and maintain the charm. But his co-workers knew something was wrong, and it was a bizarre moment. "I kept playing it off. You don't think in those terms. You don't believe it's that severe." LeBlanc added quietly, "They were so patient, so nice, but there was something deeper, They were more worried about me than I was. And then it happened, the kind of moment that sticks in your memory forever, that really stopped him cold. LeBlanc was filming a scene where Michael Baldwin was intended to put on his wedding band. A straightforward act that symbolizes love, commitment, and continuity, but the ring came off his finger as soon as LeBlanc attempted to slide it on. His body, not the ring, was the problem. He had gradually and quietly lost weight without realizing it. That was the first sign of something odd, he remarked. His body was trying to tell him something, and his Y&R family, who had been his co-stars for decades, urged him to listen to it. He had a gut feeling that it wasn't just stress or fatigue. The Fames family. LeBlanc grew up on that set, both professionally and personally, surrounded by people who had become his second family. For him, The Young and the Restless was more than just a job. It was a home, a network of friends and colleagues who had supported him through victories and setbacks, joy and tears. He told hosts, "I've always said you spend so many years with people, and yet every time they show up for you, it still surprises you. You tell yourself it's just work, but somehow you realize it's family," he continued. Over the years, Greg, who plays Michael's half-brother Kevin Fisher, has shared innumerable scenes with LeBlanc, many of which are poignant, humorous, or incredibly heartfelt. Their on-screen chemistry reflects a friendship based on mutual respect in real life. Greg turned to LeBlanc during the interview and said, "Simply, we love you." Despite its modest size, the remark was very powerful. The support system that soap opera actors create keeps many of them grounded despite the intense nature of the work, the long hours, the unrelenting pace, and the emotional toll. For LeBlanc, Tracy Bregman, who plays Lauren Baldwin, was another anchor. The two have shared decades of storylines as one of Genoa City's most enduring couples. Bregman was one of the first to provide consolation and perspective when LeBlanc shared his diagnosis. Their relationship, both personal and professional, is based on a deep trust that can only be developed over years of sharing the highs and lows of daytime television. A mirror of fortitude, from illness to consciousness. LeBlanc proved that his symptoms were really caused by cancer after seeking medical assistance. Fortunately, the disease was detected early, and he had a favorable prognosis. His tale is noteworthy not just because he lived, but also because he used his ordeal to spread awareness and thankfulness. "It's amazing," LeBlanc said, adding, "You think no one's paying that close attention, but they are. The viewers care. They really do." In subsequent interviews and public appearances, he thanked fans who had noticed subtle physical changes before he did, after viewers had expressed concern on social media that he appeared thinner or exhausted. LeBlanc discovered understanding and compassion from his audience in a time when social media can be harsh and judgmental. Rather than criticizing his appearance, they were concerned about the guy behind the role, and that connection between the actor and the audience turned into another kind of healing. Michael, Christine, and the weight of history. The Young and the Restless kept crafting plots that reflected LeBlanc's character's lengthy and complex past as he was battling his real-life issue. Fans will see a special reunion between Christine, Michael, Danny, and Lauren in an upcoming episode that Laura Lee Bell has previewed on Instagram. There will be some sweet, serious, and enjoyable interactions with the four of us. Don't miss tomorrow. Bell wrote, "This is more than just nostalgia for devoted viewers. It's a return to one of the most complex relationships on the show, the complex web involving Christine Blair, Michael Baldwin, Danny, and Lauren." Early on, Michael's obsession with Christine was dark and unsettling. He even dug a hole through the wall next to her apartment with the intention of attacking her. This led to a terrifying altercation in which Paul Williams had to shoot Michael in order to save Christine. It was a startling plot that pushed the boundaries of daytime drama. Michael was written off the show for 4 years while incarcerated, and when he returned, he was on a mission to rebuild. A story that mirrored themes of justice, redemption, and personal development. As their relationship progressed from adversaries to co-workers to tentative friends, Christine gradually came to forgive him, though she never completely forgot him. Michael then reverted to his previous behaviors when he and Isabella plotted to control Paul and Christine's relationship, and Christine once more turned away. It was one of the few long-term arcs in soap opera history where forgiveness was earned slowly, realistically, and imperfectly, but years later the two characters were able to find common ground. Not as lovers, but as survivors, having been scarred, changed, and learning to respect one another from a distance. Even though Michael is still happily married to Lauren and Christine is reunited with her first great love, Danny, the shared past between the four characters is still potent, and for viewers, seeing them together again brings closure as well as nostalgia. A fire-forged love between Michael and Lauren. Michael's relationship with Lauren symbolized his redemption, whilst his history with Christine symbolized his depravity and demise. Many fans were dubious when Lauren, played by Tracy Bregman, fell in love with Michael because he had been a villain. But what transpired was one of the most nuanced depictions of mature love on the young and the restless. Lauren had experienced a long history of tumultuous romances and rivalries prior to Michael. They became one of Genoa City's strongest couples, enduring betrayals, losses, and even Michael's cancer plot together. Lauren didn't just fall in love with Michael. She helped him rebuild because she saw the man beyond the flaws, the one with empathy, humor, and loyalty. The distinction between story and reality was once again blurred when LeBlanc's real-life health issue paralleled Michael's fictional one. For fans, seeing Michael and Lauren deal with illness on screen and knowing that LeBlanc was going through a similar struggle off-screen made those moments even more heartbreaking. The power of narrative, how life-saving soap operas. In today's television environment, soap operas are sometimes written off as melodramatic or archaic, remnants of a bygone period. Yet tales like LeBlanc's serve as a reminder of their significance and the reasons they have lasted for more than 50 years. In addition to providing entertainment, daytime dramas also educate and humanize viewers by addressing pressing themes in ways that resonate with regular people, such as addiction, disease, harassment, and redemption. The concern of his Y&R family, the empathy of his audience, and his willingness to speak up transformed a private struggle into a public message of hope. In a sense, LeBlanc's health scare was an extension of that mission. By sharing his experience, he not only reminded fans that vulnerability is strength, but also raised awareness for early detection. Complete circle, appreciation, and development. In retrospect, Christian LeBlanc's story is filled with both on and off-screen, full-circle occurrences. As Christian LeBlanc, he had his own moment of reckoning, learning the value of listening to his body, his friends, and his instincts. As Michael Baldwin, he portrayed a guy who almost wrecked his own life before finding redemption. The irony isn't lost on me, he added. On the show, Michael got cancer, and shortly after, I also had it. Sometimes life does mimic art, but I'm thankful because that family and a tale might have saved my life. LeBlanc is now healthy, introspective, and still very much a part of the Y&R community. His portrayal of Michael Baldwin has remained popular with fans worldwide, not because the character is flawless, but rather because he is flawed, strong, and ultimately human, just like LeBlanc. Additionally, his most recent chapter is a tribute to perseverance, empathy, and the inseparable connection between art and reality for viewers who have followed his journey from villain to victor. A durable legacy. Stories like Christian LeBlanc's remind us why The Young and the Restless is still so legendary as the show approaches its nearly 50th anniversary. It's about the humanity that lies beneath the turmoil, not just glitzy scandals or romantic relationships. The wedding ring that LeBlanc put on his finger all those years ago represented more than just marriage. It represented dedication to his art, his persona, and the audience that has supported him through every step of the way. Now, the ring has a new significance each time it sparkles in the studio lights. It serves as a reminder of his frailty, his faith, and the family who supported him. For Christian LeBlanc, the man behind Michael Baldwin, that lasting link between art and survival is something worth celebrating. The Young and the Restless continues to create moments that endure, not just in memory, but in the hearts of those who live them, in a world where television can often feel disposable.